Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Markets to Watch from Smack the Markets for week commencing the 10th of December. Well, there's never a dull moment in the markets and there's always something to keep the markets on its toes. And I don't think this week is going to be an exception. This week, I think certainly at the beginning of the week, the main part of news that is going to dominate the markets and the focus is going to be on the outcome of this Brexit vote in the UK Parliament that is due to take place tomorrow. Potentially, whatever the outcome of that vote could create quite a bit of volatility in sterling and sterling-related markets. So in a market or in times when there could be quite a bit of volatility, let's take a look at some of the markets here that we're going to be keeping an eye on in the trading room. Now, if we come and take a look at the currency markets, a lot of currency markets are looking very sort of sideways price action. And there's been a lot of volatility in these markets over the past sort of few weeks. One of the sort of cleaner trends that I like here is setting up on euro against the Kiwi. If we take a look at this on the weekly chart, we can see that the Kiwi has been particularly strong across a number of markets for quite some time now, and that's created the weakness here in the euro against Kiwi here. You can see that the market's sold off, and it's sort of since it broke through the 175 level, and it's taken out a number of other structure points on this market. So with the strong move to the short side, the market's now broken through the 167 level, and it's now looking like it's, well, not a lot in the way of the market maybe coming back down to the 161 area, which is the next sort of decision point that we have here on these higher time frames. So recently the market's now sort of retraced back up, and it's had a retracement back towards this sort of 167 sort of structure point. And if we come and have a look at this on the daily chart, you can see this in a bit more detail. We've got these sort of levels here where the market sort of, if I zoom out of this, you'll see where the market sort of found support through this sort of consolidation phase earlier on in the year. And now, in the context of this short move, the market's now pulled back up and it's just rejecting off that level. It's also rejecting off the level back into this sort of moving average zone, which many traders look at as a sort of a fair value area where the market's sort of taken out the extension that it put in on the extremes of this move down here. Now, certainly if this market is going to continue to continue this short trend, this could be quite a nice sort of like turning point here. If it continues short, well, it's got quite a long distance for the market to go. So the sort of thing I'm going to be looking for is to come down to the sort of lower time frames here. I mean, this is the 4-hour chart. On the 4-hour chart and lower time frames, we're still going to see this market in well-structured long trends. And we need to see a bit of evidence here that this trend is going to roll over and we start to get some short opportunities in there. So we've got a couple of levels here on the 4-hour time frame. What I'd like to see is the market sort of break the lower level here around 165.70 and maybe start to put a structure of a short trend in here. So that means a sort of a break lower, maybe a pull back to this level and a rejection off it. And then when we start to see that, we'll start to see the structure of short trends on these medium time frames as well. And that could sort of be an area where we could start to look to get positioned for a short move. Now, let's come and have a look at the US indices and one of our commodities as well. So the US indices here have had some huge moves over the past sort of few weeks. If we have a look at the Dow future here, we can see that the market has now had quite a volatile time over the past few weeks, as we can see. And it's recently sort of sold off and it's back into these lows that the market's sort of seen put in this structure here since over the past sort of 12 months really. So we've got a point here around the sort of 24,000 area, the extremes really here around that sort of 23, sort of 35. And if the market, I think if it gets underneath this level, then we're starting to see into new territory. We'll see a move down to 23.35. If it gets under 23.35, well, then, we're looking for a much deeper retracement. So I think around where the market is at the moment is at a key decision point as to whether we're going to see a Santa rally coming in here and the market bouncing off this area, or whether we're going to see weakness and the further retracement. Taking a look at the daily chart here, you can see exactly where the market is at the moment. Every time it's sort of come here in the past sort of like 3 or 4 times, it's bounced off this level, and we've got a decent rally off these sort of price points. So the level that we have at the moment is around 24.23. It's just above that 24,000 level. And I think there's going to be some interesting times once these US cash markets open, and deciding, letting the market here decide as to which way it's going to go. Now, if we come and have a look at the gold market here as well, gold I think is another one that we're going to keep a close eye on this week. Again, if we come and have a look at this on the weekly chart, we can see that more recently the market's now put in the structure here of a long trend. It's started to turn around since it had the big sell-off earlier in the year, and it sort of came down to this sort of 1.17 area. So now the market's just broken above the previous high. So now we've got higher highs, higher lows sort of forming here on the weekly chart, and it's just broken above this sort of 1.245 area, which again, as you can see here, has been quite a significant price point. More importantly, above that, there doesn't seem to be an awful lot in the way for a sort of a decent move to the long side. And that's another reason why I sort of quite like this, and it's why it's of interest. So if we come to the daily time frame, we can see on the daily that we've got a well-structured short long trend here on this market, with nice clear higher highs, higher lows, convergence on the trend, and our sort of moving averages in the right order as well. So if anything, it's a little bit overstretched at this moment in time, as the market's now sort of broken through the 1.25 level. But if we come and have a look at this on the 4-hour time frame, we'll start to see these levels a little bit more clearer, and we'll start to be able to analyze this market a little bit more technically. So coming and having a look at the 4-hour time frame here, we can see the market's in a well-structured long trend. We've got higher highs, higher lows, convergence, good moving average geometry. We've got a couple of levels in here that are quite key on this market. And we saw these levels on the daily time frame, but we've got them here as 1.24 and 1.25. And I think actually in between that zone here, I think we could easily start to look at something here around 1.245. So you can see that there is certainly an area through here where the market's found resistance at before, and that's sort of right in the middle, and currently around where those moving average zone is at the moment. So again, even if we start to perhaps have a look at the context of this trend here in a little bit more detail, we can see that the area here around 1.245, this level also clusters with the 61.8% fib level of the recent move as well. So at the moment the market's sort of like pulling back, and I think it's got a potential support area around 1.25. This is still looking rather stretched at this moment in time. So if we get a continuation short to take out some of the heat on this trend, then we've got another price point here around 1.24 where, potentially the market could find a higher low. And if we can establish a higher low there, we'll certainly be looking at long opportunities off this level to the long side. So there's a few markets there that we're keeping a close eye on in the trading room. Certainly hope it helps, and look forward to speaking to you next time. Bye for now.